All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. So welcome to this edition of the Master Implementers interviews, right? It's been a while since I did it, right? But I'm very excited for this because there's a reason why I brought this gentleman called Wayne Yap, right, for this interview. And Wayne, so before we begin, right, thank you so much for coming down for this interview. And we just like to share a little bit about to my audience, what are you doing right now, right? And what are you doing? So just a quick introduction.
All right. Hi, Wayne. Basically, what I'm doing right now is looking for businesses to buy, and generally looking for marketing companies, some companies in the training or education space, as well as a little bit in the e-commerce space. Some of these projects I have partners that will run the companies after we acquire. So right now, that's really the main focus. And the strategy is generally to buy, and then at some points, we'll probably sell some of the companies.
Wonderful, right? So now we are very focused on like the businesses that you're trying to buy, right? And then to probably help them out, grow them, and then to sell them off. But you didn't start off that way, right, Wayne? So like, can you just share a bit about like your story when you first started? Because obviously, I think through what we know, like you started off as a poker player, right? But how do you become one of the one of the best poker players in Singapore, right? You want to share a bit of your journey at that point of time, and how did it lead up to what you're doing right now?
Yeah, sure. I started playing poker. The first hand I played was actually when I was 13, but that was just at a brother's friend's house. And my brother's friend came back from the US. He taught us how to play a sit and go tournament and just play a bit. Then a few years later, probably about 16, 17, like sometimes, you play mahjong with your friends, and then we'll be like, okay, let's try a little bit of poker. Everybody kind of knows a bit of the basic rules. So play a little bit. Then JC got a bit more serious because I met a few guys that was also really into the game, and we really wanted to beat each other. So we all like kind of we're all like kind of competitive and really good at strategy games and good at math and numbers. So we just decided to start like kind of reading books behind each other's back, like Closet Mark, the poker books, and then so things kind of took off from there. Went into army, still kept playing poker. At that point, my family had some financial difficulties, so like poker really helped my family. So I kind of doubled down on it, played more. Then uni came. I was much more committed to poker than uni. Yeah, at certain points in my NUS semester, I would be living in Macau, and then or somewhere else like Vegas or London, and then I would just fly there to play poker, and I would come back during my exams. So I skipped a lot of classes. Didn't do super well in school, but managed to pass. So pretty happy about that. Then the next 3-4 years after I graduated, I just kind of started climbing up mistakes, reached the highest games, pretty much the highest games in the world, playing for like hundreds of thousands per day, per session. But wasn't really fulfilled. You win, somebody else loses. It's a zero-sum game versus business or everything else, where if you make money there, it's usually because you're creating value for someone. People only pay you $10 for that meal because they think it's worth more than $10 to them. So that exchange of value, exchange of money usually creates a value surplus. So and as I decided to kind of start thinking about walking away from poker, I started investing in a lot of startups. I started going for a lot of events. Went down this like meditation, spiritual, personal development kind of journey. Did a whole bunch of things. I think the one is like the Tony Robbins Platinum Partnership, but also did like Dan Sullivan's strategic coach business event, which I think is probably the best one out there. I just went to India a bunch of times, meditation, and then with the business buying and stuff, mainly I've been learning from Roland Frazier. He owns like Digital Marketer and War Room Mastermind and stuff like that. Has some very, very good techniques for how you can get maximum leverage on the money you invest in a business. It's like if you invest in a stock, for example, basically you pay $10,000, you get $10,000 worth of stock, right? Yeah. Whereas if you buy, or sometimes you can get leverage on that as well. But generally, if you buy a business that is worth 1 million, you can often pay like 200 or 300K for it, and then use other methods to finance the business. It's kind of like, so your dollar can stretch a lot, and sometimes there's already profitability. So as long as you know how to run a business, as long as you know how to count the cash flow and predict the cash flow so that you can pay for the financing portions of it, it's actually quite lucrative to do it. And right now in this current market with so many struggling businesses, it really, really helps because so many businesses, you know, they might close down and stuff. But if somebody like me comes in, injects some capital or injects some skills and marketing and ability, the business might be able to survive. You get to save jobs, you get to continue the value creation process that the small business was providing. So I find it very fruitful and fulfilling.
Yeah, I love it. Like, I think what you say about like from poker, yes, you had like your fair share of like fun, excitement, right? But you want to move to business because previously poker is more like zero-sum game, but right now you're trying to create value, right? And that really brings about a lot more fulfillment and value, right, to everybody, not just yourself, right? So but I want to go back very quickly, right, to just your time a bit in poker, right? Because I think a lot of the audience here, there are people who are thinking of starting out, right? Whether is it a business, right, their side hustle, right, or even movement of career. Like, when did you know, right, like you really wanted to go full time into poker, right? Especially I think university, like you kind of like sacrifice school time, right, for it. Like when did you know that you're something that you really want to do for full time, right? Like you wanted to travel around to do it.
I mean, I don't think there was like a particular moment where I just suddenly decided. It's more of a, okay, let's just play and see. During army, kind of like I really loved the game. I didn't really want to serve the national service. I was always looking forward to book out so that I can play. And then soon I was making like kind of 10,000 a month kind of thing. And then soon like I made like my first 100K. I think then, yeah, that's probably even before I OR'd, I already made my first 100K during army. And then in uni, I kind of won some money, I lost some money. But by the time I graduated, I was already kind of averaging 100 plus 200K a year of income. And then at that point, like, I mean, I kind of didn't really make a decision. It's just like, okay, I'm sitting on so much cash. Like, I don't really have any other option now. I mean, I'm not going to find a job. I could start a business, but like, I kind of love poker as well. So like, I mean, I kind of didn't make any decision. It just kind of fell into me.
Also the enjoyment and the fact, hey, you already did well, so why not just go with it? So I think you said, okay, you made 100K right before turn ORD. So but I think that, in one of your book, right, the one that you recently published, right, there was one time, I think that was one of at least in what I read, right, one of the more exciting moments in your poker career where you like, I think you lost like the value of equivalent to a house, right, if I'm not wrong, right? So like I think what, like 1 million. Like, share a bit more of your story about like how did that like affect your mindset, right? And how it might have affected like your strategy down the road. But I think that would be interesting story that the audience could learn a bit more about.
Yeah, I know your audience has a lot of investors and stuff like that. So like, I mean, winning and losing in investing is, or making money and losing money in investing is very common. Poker is the same. Like at the end of the day, the mindset portion is really, really important. And it's very, very underrated to focus on the mindset. I mean, I see it in investment, I see it in poker as well, where people overvalue kind of the technical skills when actually, if you don't master your mindset first, or you don't have a sufficient baseline of mindset, you always find a way to self-sabotage yourself and make kind of bad decisions. So even if you know all of the tricks of how you can invest well, if it comes a time when you are mentally affected by a bad decision that you made, or kind of the stock market going against the way you want, it's so easy to just kind of throw everything out of the window, or to kind of be biased in the way that you don't even realize, just so that you can sort of feed your own ego to make you feel like you're not like doing badly, something like that. And okay, I mean, your question is more of how do I actually kind of have that mindset that I can actually handle this kind of swings, right?
Yeah, like what kept you going? Because 1 million, I mean, for the average person out there, it's like, dude, you lost 1 million, but you kept going, pushing, right? So I'm just wondering, like, in terms of how do you like manage to bounce back, or what was your mindset when that happened to you at a point of time?
I mean, at that point of time, we were playing so big. So the pot was 1 million. I lost like 500K in that pot. So I basically lost 500,000. And I mean, it was tough, but it was also not unexpected because you were playing so big. Like every single day at that point was like winning and losing hundreds of thousands. So between like it's like between 100 to 500K every day, whether you win or you lose. More often than not, you win. So it's like, okay, you win some, you lose some. Like probably a few days ago, I might have won 300 or 400K. So that hand I lost 500K, but probably that day I end up losing like 200K. So it's like, you just kind of get used to it. And I think the part that I talked about this in the book is that the more you get used to handling bigger numbers, then the more it becomes a norm to you, the easier it is for you to ask for that bigger check. Like when it comes to business, it's kind of hard asking for the $1,000 thing the first time if you are somebody that is selling out services on Fiverr, Upwork. Like you're like, nobody's gonna pay me $1,000. But then after a while, maybe you start meeting a few people, or you start building your own email list and funnels and stuff, and now $1,000 is fine. But then you're like, hey, I probably couldn't sell something at $10,000. No one will pay $10,000 for it. But after you do it a few times, you ask a few people, and you manage to do it, then it's like kind of normal. So you start kind of getting used to bigger and bigger money, and then soon it's like the hundreds of thousands it's like, it's not like I don't feel anything, but it's like, it's not as bad as it sounds because you're kind of used to it at that point.
Yeah. I love what you said because like, firstly, I think you focus on the mindset, right? A lot of people don't focus on mindset, and I absolutely see that in the investing space and entrepreneurship space, right? And at the same time, right, it's about getting used to big numbers. So I know people with, they started with like 4-digit, 5-digit in their portfolios, right? Right now they are 6 digits, but they are still focusing on like that $1,000 investment, the $2,000 investment, right? Which was still their mindset when they first started, right, their investment journey, right? And I think there was another thing that you wrote in the book, right, where a lot of people, instead of focusing on the mindset, right, or even practicing and applying, right, they would just focus on studying, right? Do you see that happening a lot, not just in poker, but in other areas, whether is it your clients, the people around you, right, where they're just focusing on studying instead of like taking action or focusing on the mindset?
Yeah, of course I see that a lot, and I guess that's what your whole brand is about, like a master implementer. It's like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I don't think that implementing is the only thing. I think learning and studying is important. It's just like kind of like, at what stage are you in your life right now? At what stage are you in your business right now? I personally believe that if you go into a new field, it's pretty useful to front load your studying. So like if you don't know something, like let's say you don't know anything about email marketing, you probably want to study quite a lot and front load a lot of your studying so that you have enough of a base of knowledge such that when you actually go and implement, you're actually experimenting with useful things that you have already learned from someone rather than starting from scratch. Because you also want to model the successful. It's just like a fine balance, and you really got to be honest with yourself about whether you are learning just because you're hiding from actually taking action, or you are learning because that's the most relevant path, and that's the path you're most incentivized by at the moment. So that's something I try to pay a lot of attention to. What am I incentivized by at that current moment?
Wow, I love it. I love how you said like it's not just about like blindly implementing, right? But it's also about like front loading the study, right? And then after asking yourself like, what are you incentivized by, right? And that really can bring you forward, right? So thanks, Wayne, for sharing. So I think the next question I have to ask you, right, is so you say you went on this like spiritual journey, right? I think you went to India, right? You went to a couple of places, a couple of things. So like, could you share like maybe some of your insights? Because I think there was some interesting experiences you had, right, over the past, when you did it, I think sometime last year, right? Earlier this year, like, will you share some of like maybe the biggest epiphanies that you might have gathered, right? Since you started your journey, right, into the spiritual, space.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's definitely a bit loaded in some ways because I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I can answer this question in a way that's suitable for the audience. Like, I'll try to kind of simplify it and make it a bit more basic in some ways, just so that I don't sound like I'm talking about something really strange, because it is kind of strange when you dive very deep into the deepest levels.
Yep.
I mean, generally, when you do very deep meditation or spiritual work, I guess there are a few components to it. The first component is that you practice meditation, and it can be mindfulness meditation, which is kind of like where you are basically trying to be mindful of the sounds, the things around you, the thoughts in your head, that kind of meditation. It can be a very focused meditation where you're focused on one singular object, whether that is just your screen, just one particular spot on the screen, and you're just purely focused on that. Or it could be where you are just kind of focused on nothing in some ways. You're trying to not really focus on anything. And these are usually unguided meditation, so there's no kind of tracks or anything. But then there's the whole guided realm as well, where you are practicing breath work, you're practicing certain meditation techniques that can get you to transcendental states or enlightened states. And I can talk briefly about, like, I guess the one that most people can relate to is probably the like the Ananda state. It's the state of bliss where when you go into very deep meditation, you can get to a point where you feel like you are love, you are bliss, you are happiness, and you're just like connected to everything, and you're just like so freaking happy. It's like that's the kind of experience that is very hard to describe, but it's also like, okay, like experience is something where it's like if I tell you how a mango tastes like, but you never taste a mango before, or I tell you how a durian tastes like, but you never tasted a durian before. There's just no way to substitute the actual experience of it. So a lot of these meditative experiences is like that. Once you experience that state where everything is connected and everything is one and you're bliss, like your life just kind of changes because you sort of experience things from a new perspective now that you can't forget. So you start making different decisions in your life because you just know that there's a different layer to the world that you previously never saw. So that's one experience.
Just curious, any specific if you could share like any specific like perspective or examples of because of my experience from this journeys, right? Like some of the decisions I made like in after that, right? Usually I would have done a certain path, but after that I would because of whatever I've gone through, my new perspective or epiphanies that I've got it, right? I actually make a different decision that might seem counterintuitive to me before that, right? Just for some people like just find out like a bit more like how what some real life examples, right, of some of the impact that it might have had on you.
Yeah. Okay. Before I go there, I'll share another 2 more kind of mini experiences. I won't go into the details, but the first experience is this experience of where I feel like you are dead or I am dead, or like basically it's that this Mike and Wayne is like there's no separation between us, or me and Mark. There's no separation between us. So there's a kind of that sense of feeling in the very deep meditation states where you feel like you are dead, so to speak, but it's not really the same as like, oh, everything is one. It's more like there's no separation between things. And then there's another one of a state of grand compassion where you feel like I had an experience where I was flying through other people's bodies and stuff like that, and I felt the emotions that they were feeling. It's like I felt like it's like compassion, but it's amplified. So after those 2 experiences, right, I started having a very different relationship with animals and living things in general. Like in the past, throughout my whole life, like if I see an ant and I kind of didn't like the ant, I would just like kind of kill it. Like I wouldn't even think twice. I'm just like, this thing is an irritating pest. I'm just gonna kill it. I'm just gonna kick it on the floor. I don't give a damn about it. And I never really I never thought I would like have animals and pets and stuff like that. But after a lot of these experiences, now I have a dog, and I'm really really in love with my dog. Like, if you asked me 3 years ago, would I ever have a dog? Like, I would just be like, why would I have a dog? I have to take care of something else. Like, I can't really do my own business. I can't run my own things. Like, I just wouldn't do it. So these are 2 examples that, like, without this meditation, I probably wouldn't act like that. Like now, when I see a fly or ant, like a fly flies on me, I'm like, how do I not kill it and get it off me? So I'm kind of like, thinking of how to flick it and trying my best not to harm living things, even if it's like kind of the leaves on a tree. Like I'm not really gonna pluck out the leaf on the tree if I can help to do it, because in a way I know that that's life as well, and I'm kind of like killing life by plucking that leaf out of the tree. So these are some things that like have changed in my life.
Wow. Look, I think those are really interesting experiences. I think you wrote an email, I think a while back also, like on I think this like chemical that you told, right? I think it's exciting, right? I think the whole realm of spirituality, right? Will you encourage the everyday, like the average person to like go for it, to like explore their journey in that space? Or do you feel that it should be on some level, right, before you could do it? Or do you think it's something that everybody could do actually?
I think everybody can be more mindful and have a small little spiritual practice. I think to dive deep into it, I personally wouldn't recommend it for everybody, because like it's very easy to fall into the spirituality trap in some ways, where you start feeling like the physical world isn't important and you just focus on the meditation and stuff like that, and then kind of you neglect maybe even the people in your life, or you neglect making money and you can't support your family anymore. There are a lot of broke spiritual people that just kind of like quit everything in life and just go and do that. Like, I don't think that's generally the best path for most people. I personally think that when you're ready, kind of, it will come to you. It's like the old saying that when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. I really think that for spirituality kind of thing, it's really true. And I also buy into have you been to Day of Destiny or no? The Tony
No,
Robbins event?
only UPW and the recent virtual one.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he talks a little bit about this concept called spiral dynamics, which is there's 8 different colors that he teaches, but there's actually more than 8. But basically, it's like, if you're born, you're in the beige color, and this is you're only about survival. You're only about you. Then after you go to the second level, which is purple, where you're about kind of you're scared of the gods. You're like very religious, superstitious. Then so basically, you're going from an individual focus to a group focus, but then it kind of goes back and forth. But then level 3 is about power. Level 4 is about kind of rules kind of thing. Level 5 is about success. Like this is a very simple example. I'm not going to dive into too much detail. But then I think most people, you kind of have to go through that level or the orange color of success first before you dive into the more spiritual stuff, because it's very hard to skip levels in some sense.
Okay.
So if you have not really achieved much success in your life before, I would say like it's actually a pretty good goal to achieve success. Yeah. And I really like what Naval Ravikant, I'm sure you're familiar with Naval, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I really related to when he said it was that in life, basically, like when you think about it, most people are striving for 3 things. One is happiness, one is money, and one is health. So there's these 3 measures that, I mean, you can choose some other 3 that's similar, but it kind of all revolves around these 3 in the end. And money is the only one that you can actually have a win. You can have a the end. You can reach a certain point where you're like, hey, this is it. I don't really need any more money. And it's a lot easier to focus on 2 things than to focus on 3 things. If you want to always focus on your happiness, your money, and your health at the same time, it's not easy. It's always like there's certain trade-offs that you need to make. So I kind of find the theory where, you kind of want to focus. If you focus on money first, you solve that, then you can focus on the other 2.
Wow, interesting. Right. So I think thanks for sharing it. But I think I think interesting with what you said that like, a lot of people that might be pretty spiritual, but they're not exactly the richest or in terms of maybe the healthiest, right? I know, right? So I think that's a very good perspective to have for a lot of people out there might be interested in the space.